Welcome to the February edition of the AJP-Heart and Circulatory Physiology video table of contents, or from the editor's desk. There's some great cardiovascular research published in this issue. I urge you to take a look at the novel studies showcased, so let's get started. Study published on January 15th by Zhang et al. The hypothesis was tested that the sodium-calcium exchanger 1, or NCX1, overexpression mediates calcium gain and elevated cytosolic calcium in femoral arteries that also express the calcium biosensor exogenous myosin light chain kinase. Cytosolic calcium and the NCX1 dependent component were increased in transgenic arteries, but constrictions to phenylephrine and angiotensin II were comparable in transgenic arteries and control arteries. Normalized phenylephrine dose-response curves and constriction to 30 and 300 nanograms per kilo of IV angiotensin were virtually identical in control and transgenic arteries. Maximum arterial dilation was comparable in transgenic and control mice, although passive diameters were 6 to 7% smaller in transgenic mice. The changes in transgenic arteries were apparently largely functional rather than structural, despite congenital hypertension. Buchan et al. Sought to describe the pulmonary artery pressure, pulmonary wedge pressure, and right ventricular functional responses to brief and prolonged exercise in endurance-trained athletes approximately 54 years of age that underwent right heart catheterization to assess pulmonary hemodynamics during graded submaximal exercise. Measurements were made at rest and during 3 stages of steady-state semi-upright cycle ergometry at heart rates of 100 beats per minute, 130 beats per minute, and 150 beats per minute. Pulmonary artery pressures and pulmonary artery wedge pressure increased significantly. The resistance compliance time constant decreased. After an initial rise in PA pressure and pulmonary artery wedge pressure during early non-steady state exercise, values remained constant despite increases in exercise intensity and duration. These data indicate that in healthy middle-aged endurance-trained athletes, the pulmonary artery and pulmonary venous left atrial compartments rapidly accommodate high conduit flows produced during intensive and prolonged exercise while maintaining right ventricular function. Maslov et al. Determined the potential contribution of sacubitril, a nephrolysin inhibitor, and valsartan to the benefits of combined therapy on left ventricular function and exercise tolerance in heart failure rats. Therapy began 4 weeks after valve disruption and lasted through 8 weeks. Both sacubitril, valsartan, and valsartan similarly improved the load-independent index of contractility, the slope of the end-systolic pressure-volume relationship. Sacubitril did not improve end-systolic pressure-volume relationships. First, synergy of norepinephrine with sacubitril and angiotensin receptor blocker with valsartan led to the improvement of load-dependent left ventricular contractility and relaxation, exercise tolerance, and reduction of myocardial collagen content. Second, the improvement in load-independent left ventricular contractility with sacubitril valsartan appears to be solely due to angiotensin receptor block with valsartan. In a common rodent model of induced hypertension, Corneva and Humphrey found marked mouse-to-mouse differences in thoracic aortic remodeling over 2 to 4 weeks of pressure elevation, with mechanoadaptation in some but gross maladaptation in most mice, despite the same experimental conditions and overall genetic background. They also found a strong correlation between maladaptive aortic remodeling and the dysfunctional ability of the vessel to vasoconstrict with maladaptation, often evidenced by marked adventitial fibrosis. These findings suggest both a need to study together the structure, mechanical properties, and function across layers of the wall when assessing aortic health, and a need for caution in using common statistical comparisons across small, seemingly well-defined groups that may mask important underlying individual responses. Te et al. Investigated whether senescent primary human coronary artery endothelial cells have a diminished heat shock response and impaired proteostasis. In addition, they tested whether this downregulation of heat shock response can be mitigated by 17-beta estradiol, which has a critical cardioprotective role in women. They found that senescent endothelial cells, despite their unexpectedly increased proteasome activity, had a diminished heat shock response and had more protein aggregation than early passage cells. Senescent cells had increased oxidative stress, which promoted protein aggregation. 17-beta estradiol treatment did not decrease protein aggregation or improve the heat shock response in either early passage or senescent cells. In summary, cellular senescence in adult human endothelial cells is accompanied by increased oxidative stress and a blunting of proteostasis, and E2 did not mitigate these changes. Thank you for watching this month's video table of contents. Please look at the high-quality work published in the most recent issue of AJP-Heart and Circ. I also want to pass on some good news concerning the cost of publication in our journal. Starting right now, all original research papers published in the journal will be charged at a flat fee of $800 for members and $975 for non-members. Page charges will no longer exist. This is a huge incentive for authors, so please send us your best work now.